Kiani, host for this session. We are going to start off with the purpose of the day, which will be given by Mr. Mahlaka Molepo, who is the faculty librarian from the University of the Free State, just to give us a background as to why we are here and to elaborate on the purpose of the day. Over to you, Mr. Molepo.
Good afternoon, program director and colleagues. Thank you for the invitation. Earlier on, I was talking to Mr. Blosse about the invitation for the purpose of the day because I just didn't know what to do. So I began by asking him if I could present the purpose of the day using my home language, which is Sesotho sa Leboa, and he emphatically said no. And my response to him was, that is actually the first violation of human rights for researchers and scholars in this part of the world. I was requested to speak briefly about the purpose of the day, focusing on 3 themes or sub-themes, namely postgraduate studies or research, and the maturity of the discipline of library and information science in South Africa or Africa as a whole, under the theme advancing the scholarship of information science in the Free State. So perhaps just a few talking points, because I think I have only 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Just a few talking points. This event comes at a very interesting time in world history, where there's an ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, or as others prefer to call it, a proxy war on Russia by NATO, led by the United States of America. So we are witnessing the emergence of a multipolar world that is led by rising powers such as China and other multilateral blocs in Eastern Europe, Africa, Asia, and elsewhere. So what we are seeing now is a challenge to the US-led hegemony, which has been in force since World War II. And I'm sure colleagues would have seen, those who have read through the literature, that there was a proliferation of research after World War II. So this is a very interesting time in world history. So I looked for a few perspectives that I thought will add value to today's very interesting event. So I came across a few of those while I was searching through the literature. So I want to begin by saying that there are those who say that the word research is linked to imperialism and colonialism. One of those authors is Tuhiwai Smith, who wrote a publication in 1999. I would like to just quote from the author. So open quote, the author says that the word research itself is probably one of the dirtiest words in the indigenous world's vocabulary, because it is implicated in the worst excesses of colonialism, with the ways in which knowledge about indigenous peoples of the world was collected, classified, and then represented back to the West. So I think that this quotation is very interesting, and it's got very serious implications for researchers and scholars in the global South. And I suppose researchers and scholars in information science or library and information science would be very much interested in this kind of a quotation, because I also find it very interesting. So there is no way we can talk about our scholarship in library and information science or studies, or even research itself, without a consideration of this kind of facts. What we know is that research that we are talking about today is scientific, and it follows on the footsteps of the positivist movement of the 19th century, led by French philosopher and writer Auguste Comte. And Comte's positivist ideas were based on three rules: the theological, the metaphysical, and the positive. So a lot of his followers did not agree that humanity should be ruled by royal decrees. You know, for example, those that are coming from kings and queens, that reality is perceptible beyond the senses. So they believed in the accumulation of knowledge through empirical evidence characterized by individual choice. So what we are seeing today is as a result of this kind of a movement that led to the growth of a number of disciplines. And although it was criticized for its limitations, I mean, the positivist worldview, and went on to deteriorate as years went by. It set a foundation for new ideas about research to begin to develop. So on postgraduate studies, colleagues, I think we have seen in South Africa a steady growth of information professionals graduating from different universities across South Africa in the past 10 years. Although I do not have the exact numbers of graduates, I take it that there is a growing number of information professionals who have completed their honors, masters, and doctoral degrees. We know this from the congratulatory messages that we often see in our emails, in our workplaces, as well as graduation photos of LIS graduates on social media platforms. I must say this is very encouraging. And today we will be listening to four of our four information professionals who have graduated with honors, masters, and doctoral degrees. Also important to note is the continuous renewal of LIS curriculum in the South African universities. For instance, we have seen the introduction of postgraduate diplomas, and some of these diplomas are meant for students from disciplines or from other disciplines who want to study LIS full-time or part-time. Furthermore, we have also witnessed the emergence of postgraduate courses in matters relating to the fourth industrial revolution, that very contentious concept called the fourth industrial revolution. So we're seeing LIS scholars focusing on new fields such as artificial intelligence, robotics, blockchain technology, and so on. However, questions remain on whether 4IR can impact the lives of communities who have not even been through the second and third industrial revolutions. So what I'm saying here is that we need to be very critical about the fourth industrial revolution or the concept itself. I see there's like a couple of minutes left. I just wanna perhaps speak to the other issue relating to research. So I also came across a very interesting publication by Danish scholar Biwa Joland entitled Domain Analysis in Information Science, 11 Approaches, Traditional as well as Innovative. So I decided to bring it to the session because I think it's worthwhile, because it really highlights the number of domains that a lot of our scholars and researchers in LIS operate within. And as the author Biwa Joland reiterates, these domains can be found between two spectrums: the universal, which he gives an example of national libraries, and also the other spectrum being specialized types of libraries. And I think we as academic librarians fall within that specialized spectrum. So from my experience working in the library, I think we tend to focus on research on some domains at the expense of others. For example, it has become normal for librarian researchers to undertake research in some approaches amongst the 11 domains, such as producing literature guides or subject gateways and user studies, to mention a few. However, we rarely incorporate other domain approaches such as historical and epistemological or critical studies, just to mention a few. So I think that we are caught up in a situation where we tend to focus on certain domains. And I would encourage our fellow colleagues to also consider looking at those other domains that haven't been touched. And we are also seeing, and I know some of my colleagues are going to bash me for this, but we are also seeing a disturbing culture where research topics are chosen for researchers. I mean, looking back at the positivist movement that I spoke about earlier on, we know for a fact that the movement was based on the idea of individual choice. So people being able to have the freedom to choose what to research and what not. So, but we are seeing a situation in South Africa where topics are chosen for researchers, and this happens a lot in our libraries without much consideration for researcher autonomy. Unfortunately, that kind of an organizational culture can hamper innovation and quality research output. I just want to wrap up with what Sihle also requested that I highlight as part of the purpose of the session, which is an issue that I'm also passionate about, and it's about the maturity of our discipline in South Africa or maybe in Africa as a region. So I have concerns and I have my doubts concerning the maturity of the discipline because of the following reasons. Number one being the strategic, you see, this is why I wanted to use my own language to present this, the strategic change of government in the early 2000s. We know that the then Minister of Education, together with the cabinet then, took a decision to remove disciplines such as library science from the academic calendar of institutions of higher learning, and then replace them with the natural sciences. That's a very concerning issue for me. Since then, we have seen a strategic focus of our government on the natural sciences at the expense of humanities and social sciences. I mean, we just came back from a conference at Northwest University. There was a presenter there who mentioned that that situation has changed. I have my doubts. I don't think that the humanities and the social sciences are given enough space to contribute to our knowledge system, our contemporary knowledge system in South Africa. And the other issue is there is only 9 universities that offer LIS courses out of 26. So there's quite a huge gap to be filled going forward. There's another challenge that relates to the exclusion of the humanities and the social sciences in the model that is used to characterize our knowledge system. So I did, when I did my dissertation for my master's, this was my focus. I focused on academic libraries and knowledge systems. And that's where I came across this very concerning issues. And I think as LIS researchers and scholars, we need to really start looking into them. Finally, I have a prediction that because of the current situation, we are going to see a lot of opportunities going forward. So I predict that in the next 10 years, we are going to witness the emergence of private LIS institutes and colleges, as well as private consultants or infopreneurs who will be taking advantage of the opportunities that have been created by the void that is currently there in our knowledge system. On that note, I would like to wish our presenters well and look forward to a very fruitful engagement. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mahlakha Molepo, and pardon us for not allowing you to actually, or to give you that opportunity to express yourself in your indigenous or your language of preference. But in Sepedi, maybe you can also assist me in translating this. You know, there's a saying that goes by, so based on my understanding, you know, I believe that colleagues have really had or learned from your engagement with regards to the purpose of this day and the thought-provoking deliberations that you made regarding the shortcomings in scholarship, particularly within the field of information sciences. So thank you very much for that. Without wasting much time, colleagues, we're going to now hand over or start with our presenters. Each presenter will get 20 minutes to engage with us, and 10 minutes will be allocated for the question and answer session. So basically, each and every after each and every presenter, we're going to open the floor for questions. And we are going to start off with Dr. Margaret Matobako, who will be giving us a presentation based on her doctoral study titled Emergence of Knowledge Commons in Thabo Mofokeng District Municipality Libraries in the Free State, South Africa. Dr. Margaret Matobako is passionate about the development of knowledge commons, ICTs, and the influence of social media in the public libraries. She's also devoted to promoting information literacy amongst community members. She has also been one of the participants of the Carnegie Library Leadership Academy and Mzansi Libraries online training facilitated by the University of Pretoria. And she completed her study in 2022 with the University of South Africa. Over to you, Dr. Matobako.
Good day, colleagues. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity so that I can share my thesis and also share my academic journey with you. I believe it was not easy to achieve whatever I have achieved now. And then the other thing that I also like to say is that maybe if we can go to the next slide. I don't know if I can do it on my side or yes. I used the pyramids because I believed that it was not an easy journey for me to achieve my doctoral degree. I started at the primary level, going to high school. It was not easy, but it was not as tough like now. And then from there, I moved to the undergraduate where I received my junior degree. And then I went to my honors and masters. With my masters, I believe one of my colleagues said to me, hey, let's register for masters. We will do it together. And then we went to, actually I went to my manager because when you do the master's degree, you have to ask permission before you can do that. And then my manager said to me, no, your colleague was already here. And then after 3 weeks, when I met my colleague, I said, did you hear anything from UNISA? He said to me, hey, Mona, I did not register. So I was alone doing my master's degree. It was not easy, but I managed to pass it. And then I used the arrows differently to see that it was not easy going to the PhD level, because also I was doing it alone, and along the way, the pandemic was there. I was having COVID, and I thought that I was going to die because most of the time I'll pass out. And I remember the day I was admitted, my supervisor was requesting some information from me. And my daughter said, no, my mother has been admitted now. But fast forward, I managed to get my PhD. And now I published 2 articles. I attended, I think, 2 conferences now. And then now I'm doing the radio slot. I'm busy marketing and promoting the libraries in the local community radio station. And I think I've been working in the library for 32 years now. On the 1st of November this year, it will be 32 years being in the public library sector. And that's why now I've realized that before the apartheid, I was there. And then after the apartheid, I was there. I am there actually. And then I've been the libraries have been undergoing the rapid transformation. And I think what we are trying to do now is we are trying to build the literate and knowledgeable informed community, because we want them to be internet search independent community. And if we can realize now the public libraries, we've been little bit behind the academic libraries. But now there are so many changes that are happening in the library. And then now the new technology are transforming. No, I've been transformed by what I want to say is that new technology is influencing the old technologies. That's where maybe the change is coming. And then again, because of the new technologies, we are experiencing the emergence of a new form of information services now that we call knowledge commons. That's where now my thesis comes in. I have indicated the authors where I got all the information of the knowledge commons, and then also with other commons, because if you talk about knowledge commons, you also have to talk about other commons. Can we go to the next slide? What was bothering me? I wanted to have a checklist of the institutional reformation, and also to check the changes that are taking place in the public libraries, because if we say we have new technologies that have influenced the old technologies, it means there must be a reformation that takes place. And now I also have these questions in my mind. Is the emerging knowledge commons in the Free State resulting to positive outcomes when it comes to the information needs of the communities? And also, it's true that if we have new changes, we must have benefits, and also there will be risks that are associated to the new methods that have been implemented, or the services that have been rendered. For example, what is the implication of access to Copyright Act? Because now if we talk about new technologies, somehow we'll have to talk about open access. So what are the libraries doing when it comes to the copyright issues, or the non-copyright issues when it comes to their resources? And also, when I was doing my research, I realized that there were limited studies that were talking about knowledge common, especially in the public libraries, because I realized that the first institution to implement the knowledge commons was the University of Cape Town. And then other universities also followed the University of Cape Town. But with us, the public libraries, we didn't have the new form of library services called knowledge commons. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, the purpose of this study was to examine the emergence of knowledge commons in the public libraries of Thabo Mofusanyane. I selected, actually it was supposed to be 10 public libraries in the district of Thabo Mofusanyane, but now because of some circumstances that we could not avoid, we were supposed to only do the research only on 9 public libraries. And then my purpose also was to understand how the ICT and communitarian ethos are facilitating the implantation of delivery of digital services to those libraries and to the users of those libraries. Now, I used a triangulated sample survey, which was a mixed method, actually. I used qualitative and quantitative. I used questionnaire to gather data from the community users. And then I use interview to gather information from the community leaders and library officials. And then I call them community leaders and library officials. They were my key informers, because now I was expecting them to give me the original and direct information about their libraries and the communities. And I used the theoretical framework of Hess and Ostrom, institutional analysis and development. And another thing also now that I also want to highlight is the operational terms that I use. I use emergence because I believed that the service that was happening, the new service is emerging in the library services. And then you can just go through to see what I used, because now in our everyday languages, we used emergence as something that is coming out. And also I used my other sources where I used Kranish and Shamet, where they used emergence as the sense of birth and development of internet. And then they also used emergence of the internet, and the World Wide Web stimulated a growing awareness among scholars. And then I used also commons. Commons is a very important concept because it was used in the England during the 18th and 19th century, where they used the enclosure movement, where they want to restrict everybody. It was like an apartheid during that time, because they wanted now to remove everything from the other people and then give access to the elite, if I can say that. And then I liked Aristotle, because Aristotle said, a man is a social animal. He who lives without a society is either a beast or a god. Because now humans exist as a result of combined efforts of humans. No man is an island, we need each other. That's why now I used the foundation of commons, because commons is something that we share as a community. And then because I used Hess and Ostrom most of the time, they consider a common good which benefits, they consider commons as a common goods which benefits the community as a whole. That's why I said commons are resources that are shared by the entire community. Can we go to the next slide? Then when we talk about the resources that are shared by the community, it means we need to have legal regimes. So there must be rights that are associated to govern the resources. Because if we don't do that, then there will be a tragedy of resources. And then if we talk about the commons, we have now the natural and the man-made resources. The man-made resources, for example, I use the pavement because we used to believe that pavement belongs to us when we buy the premises of our houses, but the pavement is a commons because everybody is allowed to pass there or to walk there. And then also the public library is also a commons because now the entire community is expected to get services and then to share the resources, even the school. Now we also have a human knowledge, because if now I share the knowledge with you, I'm not going to lose anything, but the next person is going to benefit. That's why they say it's non-excludable. And then also now we have the natural commons resources, which is something like a forest, water, or air. But now, because of this now regimes, we have that we are privatizing even the natural resources. Then I spoke about open access. Open access now here I said is an access to this, is a access to these resources are particularly restricted to student members of the community staff and all those things. And then I know at the universities they're using digital commons most of the time. And then commons also, we use a property rights regime. We use also property rights to regulate the commons, because remember that when we talk about the commons in the libraries, we talk about the interaction of humans, and where there is an interaction of humans, people most of the time will fight for resources. So that's why we need to have a property rights, or we need to have regulations that will govern all these resources that have been used, that have been shared amongst the users of the commons. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, now amongst, because out of 10 public libraries, I only selected this, but I select this randomly. Lerazwana Public Library is in Free State, is in Arlington. It's a small town, but if you can see the library is beautiful. I think that's where now we can be proud of our province, because if you can check, the front view is beautiful, it's modern, and then the main entrance is also glass, because the main aim is everybody to see what is happening inside the library, because we want to share the resources and the information. That's why we call the libraries commons. Can we go to the next slide? And then this is the information desk, where you get everything that you need. You can go to there to ask anything that you want to know about the services that they are rendering, or the resources that they are rendering, or the spaces that are having in the libraries. We have multimedia section. You can just come and take a book and sit there, relax. We have photocopies. We have now the knowledge commons, because now when we talk about the knowledge commons, we are talking about rich digital resources. So I think that we're having more than 30 computers in that knowledge commons space. Now, Recently, we have toy libraries because we believe that in our communities, we have children who are not fortunate enough to have this thing, and we are trying to educate them while we are playing with them. So that's why we have now toy libraries within our own public libraries. Now, this is the reference section where they can only refer, and then you can see it's very private because we want to restrict the space from accessing noises from other spaces in the libraries, because now the library has become a one-stop shop now. We have also an adult learning section. We have primary section. Primary section is like a juvenile section. It's like a children's section. Then we have activity hall, because we believe that we are sharing resources and services. Now people can come here and actually, let me put it in this way. Public libraries now are social spaces. That's why we have activity hall. So all the activities that are happening can happen in the activity hall. Now we have the study hall, where you can come and do the in-depth study, or anything that deals with the study is being done in the study hall. Now, what is knowledge common? Because the most important thing in my study was knowledge common. I'll just read here. I believe that knowledge common is a vast and complex sector. Most aspects concern digital information. And then knowledge become a common when it becomes digital. It is true because when we talk about digital, we talk about digital literacy, we talk about competency literacy, and we talk about internet, we talk about www, anything that it deals with digital, we call it knowledge commons. And then in most cases, it is renewable. Can you go back? And then in most cases, it is renewable resource. And then knowledge, because we know that knowledge is a primary example of a pure goods. It is non-rival and free to all. It is a global common because it deals with the issue of global digital divide. Because now libraries have now accommodated this new library services, we are trying to bridge the digital divide that is being experiencing in our community. And then Ostrom will also appear mostly in my study, because now she was the pioneer of my theoretical framework. And then she made the distinction between ideas, knowledge, and information artifacts, books, articles. Because now if you talk about books, remember that most of the time you'll find that our libraries are rich with books, but books that we are having in our libraries, are they answering the information needs of our communities? And then that's where we talk about books and the contents inside. Information facilities that store resources. Our libraries, are they attracting the people in the society? Are they safe? The building, who is sustaining the building? And then the databases. Can I come from the Home Affairs and then be able to access the software which I can use to help the community? And then when it comes to my findings, my respondents recognize the changing that were happening in those libraries. And also they viewed learning opportunities that were offered by the ICT infrastructure that were implemented there. And also, now when it comes to the common users and community leaders, when I was doing my interviews with them, they told me that they didn't help the library, but they were willing to contribute to whatever that they can contribute to sustain the knowledge commons. And then also the results indicated that the critical aspect of commons, namely participating in the governance and manage of KC, which is my knowledge commons resources, appear not to be occurring. So there were lots of findings that I got, but I only took the major findings. And then with the studies, we wanted to introduce the KC, especially in the public libraries. And then we wanted also to create the system analysis where we can be able to analyze the systems that are happening, because we realize that when it comes to the institutional reformations, people were not even aware of the rules that are happening in the library. They didn't even know the norms, policies, who were made in the policies. They were not being part of the decision making. And then also even the officials didn't know some of the rules that we're supposed to use. They didn't even know the library mission statement. So that's why we say it's better to create an analysis system. And then also the decision on the content and their resources. Whatever we are, what is it that we are doing, that we are rendering to the service, to the communities, are we relevant as public libraries? Because I know that the academics library are relevant, but are we relevant? Because remember that there are so many things that are contributing to the challenges of the public libraries. That's why we need to draw up a program for nurturing the system that we are already using. And then we need to train, because you'll find that most of the library officials indicated that they don't get enough training. And also, if I can add more, even the library users were not trained. Let's say library orientation, they don't know how to use the library or the library resources. And then we also wanted to help when it comes to the provision of basic infrastructures. When I went to Thabo Mofusanyane, I realized that most of the libraries didn't have water, which is a basic needs. They didn't have water. And then some of the resources that we're using were outdated. They couldn't even meet the needs of the diverse community members. To summarize, the study concluded that the rapid transformation in these public libraries compel everybody to change the manner in which they used to function, whether it's a library or management of the library or even the community. They were forced to change. And then there were recommendations that were made during my studies. And then one of the recommendations was that in order to maintain success, community involvement is very important. Governance also of the library is very important. And the incentives, because most of us as being librarians, we are busy promoting and marketing the libraries. And we invite people to come to our libraries. But when it comes to the issues of incentives, we don't provide incentives. Just to say, thank you, you've been there for us. Yes, sometimes we are failing you, but we don't provide incentives. And then equality. Do we practice equality when it comes to our library officials? Or do we practice equality when it comes to our library users when they come to the library? Do we serve them according to their qualification? Do we serve them according to their maybe wealth or whatever? And then other factors that should be considered to promote sustainability, because what we wanted is sustainability of the commons. And then while I was doing the interview, I realized that these libraries, they were having a service that is called DIY, but we call it maker spaces. That's where now library users will have a corner, a dedicated corner there that they will use to create or innovate something or to make something. That's why we call it a maker spaces. Because through the results of the maker spaces, people, it can empower people who are not working, or even it can be used also to promote the libraries. So now the study also proposed that the maker spaces in the libraries, public libraries, can also be done. And I'm busy now doing the article of the maker spaces. And then these are the references that I used on my thesis. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the thought-provoking presentation, Dr. Matobako. I'm sure the audience are looking forward to engaging with you, particularly with issues that are scarcely researched in public libraries, the knowledge commons. And also now, since one of the recommendations of your study is the proposal of the embeddedness of maker spaces within public library environments. Colleagues, we are now going to open questions, the floor for questions, so that you can all engage with our speaker in line with her presentation. Do we have any questions? Any questions for Dr. Matobako? You can also use the chat option. Okay, I see a comment there from Teresa Mofana. Thank you for a thought-provoking and interesting topic, Dr. Matobako. Well done and congratulations on your doctoral degree. Thank you, Teresa. Any comments or questions for our speaker? While we are still waiting for the audience to engage, Dr. Matobako, I've been jotting a few questions while you were presenting, and you kept on mentioning the issue of sharing. And it also, for me, it made me to think of the principle of Ubuntu, how we can also, through these knowledge commons, through these maker spaces, we can engage in ensuring that our users share and get these services equally. And my question, maybe it's something that is not aligned with the study, but I think it's something that also needs to be looked at as well. The issue of our users with special needs. Is there an indication of resources within the knowledge commons where you conducted the study in? Is there any indication of the embeddedness of assistive technologies, for instance, for the visually impaired, for example? Are they catered for in these knowledge commons, or are these facilities, are they inclusive in nature to align with the principle of Ubuntu in terms of fairness and equality, which is one of the aspects that you mentioned in your presentation as well?
In my thesis, I also use Ubuntu philosophy, and then I've also mentioned several examples there. And then in public libraries now, especially those that I did my research, they do cater for visual impaired users. We have beautiful computers. We call it mini library. And then we have these beautiful computers that can speak, or that can read the book on behalf of the person who's using the service. And then when it comes to the inequality, when it comes to the people with disability, yes, the commons, they do cater for the people with disability. That's why we say commons supposed to serve the diverse community. We are talking about the spectrum of users, whether you are white, whether you're black, whether you have disability, you are a person with disability, whether you are old, you are young, the public library, as it says, the public, it has to accommodate you and then render the relevant service that you are requesting. Yes. And then that's where now the question of equality comes in, because we have to understand that if I come to the library, everybody has to be treated the same. We don't have to categorize people. And then the resources that we are having also has to accommodate everybody. But the only thing that I realized that we didn't have, it was now when it comes to the artifacts, the books, the Braille, we didn't have the resources that we're catering for the visual impact, except the ICT equipment that we're having, excluding the printer, because they said the printer is very expensive. But yes, I think they have done well in catering of those people with disabilities. I don't know if I've answered you.
You have. Thanks a lot, Doc. And while you were also responding to that, I also thought of what you mentioned, indicating that in the community, the members do not have, basic needs, water, electricity, and so forth. And it shows that as a country, we still have a long way to go. And we shouldn't only focus on embedding technology or aligning with the 4IR aspects. We have to cater for the basic needs first as well, and to ensure that our users can fully make use of the technologically embedded resources that are available in their libraries. Okay, I see we have a hand from Sihle. Sihle, the floor is yours. Mr. Blosse? Sihle, your hand is raised. Do you have a question for our speaker? Okay.
While we are still waiting for him, the question of water, it has to do also with service delivery from the municipality. Remember that public libraries now, we are affected by everything, the decision making that are taking place in the municipality level. So now also it's difficult again for the library to say, we can maybe try to avoid the problem of water, because now it was not only the library services, you'll find that it's the entire community there that does not have water.
Thanks for that, Doc. Ms. Kigomodiswa Phuthi, while we're still waiting for Sihle.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Dr. Matubaka, for a very insightful presentation. I just wanted to check, I know that the community libraries, in terms of schools, I know that children, you know, are part of the community, they come to the library and all that. But in terms of schools, because we're having challenges with libraries in the schools at the moment, until there's a definite policy. Do you have like a MOU with schools where you, especially when it comes to this maker space, that you are able to get children from the schools to come to the library to take part in this, or you train them because they are part of the community, and as they grow, they give back into their communities what they learn. Do you have some kind of specific relationship with schools, or is it just the normal children coming after school to the library, that type of thing?
Oh, thank you for that question. During my visit there, I realized that there is no any legal agreement, but you'll find that due to lack of school media centers, most of the children were coming to the library, because I will stay there up until they close. And then there were communities, some of community leaders will come to the library to offer things like maybe helping them with their homeworks, or maybe providing the lessons there. I know Fixback, there were other guy who was offering lessons there, I think Mess or something there, but we don't have, I think they, not me, they don't have any form of a legal agreement. But you'll find that the libraries are, we are no longer supporting the school system, but they have become also now the classrooms. And then if you can check on my thesis also, I mentioned the learning commons, because I think now the public libraries are becoming now the school learning commons, because now we have to help the learners each and every time after school. Then if you take Leratswana is the only library in the whole town. So everybody has to go there, whether you are an adult, whether you are a student, whether you are anybody in the community, you have to go there to be served by that library. So there wasn't any legal agreement, but they have some sort of formed some sort of a partnership. I don't know if I've answered you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. We also have a question on the chats from Mr. Julius Mkize, who's asking if you have considered presenting or sharing your research with the Free State Public Library Services community, because you have 5 districts in the Free State province, and some libraries do not have some of the services you have mentioned. For example, toy libraries, computer section, and reference sections, just to mention a few. So have you considered presenting the findings and recommendations to the Free State community libraries or librarians?
Yes, I can do that, but fortunately, Free State Province Library Services, I think now they are trying to create like the 21st century libraries, because almost all of them, they are having toy libraries, they are having all those ICT equipments. And fortunately, Free State was also one of the provinces that was involved with the Mzansi Libraries Online. And then we received some sort of benefits from the Mzansi Libraries Online. So that's why some of the libraries will find that their library building has been redesigned to accommodate the needs of everybody in the community. But I can share with everybody. It's not a problem.
Thank you very much, Doc. And just a comment from the chairs. I'm not sure if colleagues have questions for Dr. Matobako.
Yes, Chair.
Oh, thank you, Sihle. We've been waiting.
Thank
ahead.
you. Now, what I wanted to ask is, I've noted from the presentation that Doc was working in the community. What I want to ask is, how difficult was it to collect data for this study in the community? Was the community open to her when she was looking for all this information that she wanted? Thank you.
Sure. It was not easy. Remember, it was 2020 and I went there in March. So I remember, I think it was on the 27th when the world starts to stop in South Africa. And then I left here on the 11th of March to visit all these towns. Okay, and then there was this notice that some of the libraries now were supposed to be closed because of the pandemic. And then it was also even difficult to get now the users just to come to the library. But now those that I can manage to have an interview with them or to partake in my study were very positive. Yes, there were some issues that were mentioned, but remember that I have to stick to my ethics. And then even when we were supposed to discuss something like the admin, I will just tell them that, no, I'm not here to discuss about the admin of the library. I'm just here to discuss what is based on my study. And then the other thing is that when I went to Memel, Memel is about 5 hours from Bloemfontein. And then we were using Bethlehem as my center city. We went there. When we were there were nobody, because now I think the people were not supposed to come to the library. But suddenly I saw people were coming with, they were very energetic. And then I said, oh, thank you, Lord. Then it was 20 people. And then I tried to explain what is all about my study. And then I gave them the questionnaire and then they fill everything and then they sat down. Then I asked the librarian, why these people are still here? Then she said to me, no, actually I said to them, for them to come to the library after they finish filling the questionnaire, you will give each of them 200 rand. Woo! Yeah, and they were serious. They were just sitting there. I could see that these people are not going anywhere. I said, but where do I get the 200 rand? It was not easy for me. Then I have to go there and try to explain to them that, guys, but I don't have money. I'm just studying. And then remember that I don't even have funding. And then they understood, but they were not happy. So it was not easy. From there, I have to go back to collect the questionnaires. Because now we're supposed to be here. I think we arrived in Bloemfontein on the 25th or 26th of March before the closing of that. So it was not easy. Thank you.
Yeah, I can imagine, Doc, because access to the participants is actually one of the challenges that researchers have. And imagine if you had given them that 200 when you would have gone against
4,000.
the ethical norms, yes, the ethical norms of being a researcher. I think, colleagues, we have engaged further with the speaker. Should you want to engage further, you can use the chat options. So for the sake of time, we're going to move to the next presenter or the next speaker on our program, who is Ms. Mashia Shokane from the University of the Free State Libraries. And she'll be giving a presentation on the awareness and usage of online public access catalog by undergraduate students at the University of Venda. Ms. Mashia Shokane is an electronic resource management librarian in the Department of Library and Information Services at the University of the Free State Sasol Library. And she holds a master's degree in information studies from the University of Limpopo. She enjoys family time. She is also a lifelong learner. She also believes there's still more to learn and contribute to the LIS sector. Thank you so much, Mashia. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you for the opportunity. Without wasting any time, I'm a bit nervous because this is my first presentation. So yes, as it goes, the outline of the presentation is the introduction. The first one is introduction and background. I will discuss the problem statement, the theoretical framework, the research methodology that the study adopted, and discuss the summary of findings, conclusion, and recommendations. Well, the online public access catalog is an information retrieval tool which plays a critical role in assisting library patrons to effectively and efficiently locate information resources. So the online public catalog, just like any other, shops that have catalogs. So the libraries also have the library catalog, whereby all the bibliographic information of all the library collection is captured there, both in print and electronic format. And with the history of the online public access catalog, historically, libraries used to use the card catalog, and then with technology, it replaced the card catalog with the OPAC. So the advantage of using OPAC is its capability to access information in the library remotely. So our users don't have to come to the library to physically come and search for electronic or print collection. So it saves the users time. So although there are several studies that looked into awareness and the usage of OPAC, I found that still it appears that those studies, they lacked a concentration on the awareness and optimal usage of advanced OPAC functionalities and capabilities. So the problem statement, there's still a dearth of studies on OPAC. As I mentioned, so there is evidence that shows that there is a decline in student usage of OPAC. So I have realized while I was working at University of Venda, I realized that there is still a growing trend that the current crop of undergraduate students, they routinely bypass OPAC system in favor of new discovery tools and other search engines. So the purpose of this study, it seeks to examine awareness and usage of existing functionalities of OPAC to access library resources amongst undergraduate students at University of Venda. So I have formulated objectives from the study, and I have formulated 5 objectives. And the first objective was to assess the level of awareness of OPAC functionalities and capabilities among Univen undergraduate students. And I also wanted to establish the perception of Univen undergraduate students towards OPAC functionalities and capabilities. So I also wanted to determine the frequency in which undergraduate students at Univen use the OPAC functionalities and capabilities to access the library materials, to also ascertain the purpose for which the undergraduate students are using the OPAC, and to also identify the challenges encountered by the students. Next slide. With theoretical framework, the study adopted Taylor's 1962 information seeking behavior, because the reason I chose this framework, it is because it provides an analysis of nature of the relationship between humans with information need and information retrieval system, which in the end, it is expected to provide the feedback to the end user. So the research study adopted a quantitative research which was guided by the positivist research paradigm. And it adopted a descriptive survey design, which was used to examine OPAC functionalities and capabilities and the extent of awareness and usage of OPAC by the undergraduate students at University of Venda. So the population for this study consisted of undergraduates, students, and by mentioning undergraduate students, it's all registered students for their degrees, diplomas, and certificates from first year, second year, third year, and their fourth year. So the study used a systematic random sampling method, and a total number of undergraduate students was established from the University of Venda annual report. And the total number of undergraduates is 5,941 students. So in terms of data collection, the study adopted a questionnaire as a data collection, and due to COVID, I was not able to distribute the questionnaire in person. Then I had to now change to create a Google form questionnaire, which was distributed to that total number of students. And the response rate was really very slow, and it just needed some patience and to constantly send a reminder. And it was also a challenge because the students also that time in 2019, when I was collecting the data, so it was not easy because they also did not have the internet connections and they were at home, so they did not have enough data. So hence maybe it contributed to the slow response rate. So the questionnaire was divided into 5 sections, and it was based on the 5 objectives, and where the section A addressed the bibliographical details such as the age, the gender, the level of study. So other sections were covered by the objectives according to their order. Next slide. And the data that was collected was analyzed using Microsoft Excel, and I was just glad because the Google form questionnaire, it was the results were just displayed in an easier form. It was easy for me to analyze, and it presented through pie charts and bar graphs. Next. So in terms of the summary of findings, on the first objective, the level of awareness of OPAC by undergraduate students, it revealed that they rated their level of awareness on an average level, and followed by those that rated their level of awareness of OPAC as low. So if they rated their level of awareness on an average level, I also wanted to find to what extent of awareness and familiarity with OPAC features are they? And then majority responded that they are not aware and familiar with the Boolean operators, the truncation marks, and advanced search features. However, they revealed that they are aware of and familiar with the keyword search, the search by title, the author search, and searching by subject. So how did they become, from which source did they become aware of? And the results revealed that they became aware of OPAC during library training and followed by their lecturers. So what is their perception towards OPAC? The users revealed that majority, they had a positive attitude towards the statements that they were provided, where the first statement indicated that they prefer to use Google and other search engines other than OPAC. And OPAC, they agreed that OPAC is the first system of contact when they need materials on assignments. And they agree that without OPAC, one will not have access to information in the library. And they agreed that OPAC search tool is to be trusted to provide reliable information. And OPAC requires a lot of time to learn the system, as well as to obtain concrete information. Next slide. So amongst these findings, it was revealed that they also agree that OPAC is difficult to use, and they strongly disagree that they have never used OPAC before. So on the question, how frequently are they using the OPAC? The results indicated that they usually use OPAC occasionally, and this shows that undergraduate students use OPAC only when there is a need. The search entries and options that the student used, the findings revealed that respondents used the title search entry to conduct a search on OPAC to find information resources, and this just simply indicates that they opt for simple search rather than advanced search options. So on the question, the purpose of usage of OPAC, they were also given statements to select from, and multiple answers were allowed. So all the functionalities of OPAC were to determine which ones undergraduate more frequently used, and were provided with positive and negative statements. And the results revealed that they do agree that the purpose of using OPAC is to know the availability of materials, to update themselves on new books in the library, to know the location of a particular book, to check if the material required is issued, and to also find journals. The study also found that majority of the respondents were neutral, that the purpose of OPAC is to find other non-book materials, to print and download documents, and to export the records, and to compile a bibliography for their research topics. One of the challenges that the students had to select from that they were experiencing, the challenges listed were lack of knowledge about OPAC, lack of skills in search OPAC, no output, slow speed, a lack of assistance from library staff, lack of computers to access OPAC, books not found on the shelves as indicated by OPAC, poor computer skills. And from these selections, students strongly showed that they encountered the major challenge. It was the slow internet connectivity. So other challenges encountered included lack of knowledge and skills in using OPAC by the students. So the recommendations, I had to create to create 5 recommendations from the major findings. And from the first finding, because of the results show that there is an average awareness and low. So from this finding, it is recommended that libraries ought to market and promote the importance of OPAC to improve the level of awareness. The second one is that because of they are used to or they prefer the simple search option, librarians should provide continuous training to OPAC functionalities, that is the Boolean operators, the truncation marks, and the advanced search. Next. And hence the students became aware of OPAC via the library training, and the lecturers, I recommended that the formal library training such as orientation should be supplemented by intensive marketing programs, and the subject librarians should continue to develop and update their LibGuides constantly. because of the students have a positive attitude towards the usage of OPEC, and it is recommended that these positive attitudes be sustained by intensifying library user education programs and marketing of library services. And the challenges that students encountered while using OPEC, because of there was a slow internet connectivity as a challenge, it is recommended that the university management should look into improving the bandwidth, and not only for the libraries, but for the university as a whole. Next. So in conclusion, OPEC is an important and valuable information retrieval tool developed in academic libraries, discoverable by users on and off campus. And the conclusion drawn from the findings on awareness is that even if undergraduate students at UNIVEN are aware of OPEC, they still do not use it optimally to access information from the library. And the major obstacle towards optimal utilization of OPEC is their poor knowledge of advanced functionalities of OPEC and poor information retrieval skills. So nonetheless, despite these challenges also that the undergraduate students experienced, this did not affect the undergraduates' perception or attitudes towards OPEC, as the findings also revealed that respondents agree that OPEC search tool is still to be trusted to provide reliable information. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
There's also, sorry, there's also a further there's also a recommendation for further research, and then the findings, from the findings, it is recommended that for further research study on the role of librarians to market and promote usage of advanced search functionalities of OPEC to undergraduate students to maximize its utilization. And I've challenged myself to consider writing an article out of this dissertation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marcia. And for a first-time presenter, you've done very well, and we are looking forward to that article now that you've mentioned it. So
yes.
Yeah, we're looking forward to reading that that article that will be from this study. And you know, one of the things that we attended the International Conference on Information Literacy last week hosted by the Northwest University, and this is a challenge. The challenge of information literacy, it's a challenge amongst various libraries, and you know, librarians were sharing their practices, their best practices and experiences with how they finding it difficult to actually embed information literacy, fully embedded into the curriculum. And what you have just shared or presented on actually, you know, sheds light on a basic platform that a student needs to be aware of or needs to know. And you've also noted that some of them actually prefer searching on Google rather than on the OPEC. And for me, I think maybe it's because of the ease of use or the ease of searching on Google. And unlike on Google, when they're searching on the catalog, they have to be considerate of their spelling as well, which is something that Google can help with, just in case where they have misspelled their search terms. So we still have a long way as librarians in terms of embedding information literacy within our curriculum to curb these challenges that are faced by students in making use of the resources. Colleagues, on that note, are there any questions? Okay, I see we have a hand there. Maropeni, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. Thank you to Ms. Shokani for this presentation. It's a great presentation for us here at the University of Venda. I just want to ask maybe one or two questions for clarity. The first one, Marcia, when was this data collected? Was it after COVID or before COVID? That's the first question. The second one is from your questionnaires. Was there a question maybe asking them the schools that they belong to? The reason I'm asking this is because I know of some schools here on campus which have information literacy courses. The last question will be, do you have a way or a plan of sharing these results with the University of Venda? Because this will really help us a lot. Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Marcia.
Marcia?
Okay, thank you, Maruping. It's lovely to speak to you again. The data was collected during COVID, to answer the first question. And then from my study, I also, from the bibliographic information, I also asked the schools. I'll be glad to share because I asked from the 8 schools at Univen, and just to check from which schools are they belonging to. And also I asked them to indicate their level of study. So on the question of, what was the second question?
The last one is which faculties, was there a question asking the faculty representation of the users? Because Maruping,
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I do have stats for that. And with the, yes, I do have from all faculties, and then I will share with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Marcia. Thank you, Chairperson.
All right, thanks. Any question for Marcia, colleagues? Question, comments, suggestions, recommendations? As she's mentioned that she's going to produce a paper for this study. Any recommendations, further recommendations for her? Okay, Marcia, you indicated that you are a first-time presenter, and you know, I believe that such sessions or webinars can also help us to fine-tune or to enhance our presentation skills, not only to share research. So this is the first of many presentations to come. And thank you so much for your thought-provoking presentation. I'm not sure if there are questions before we hand over to the next speaker for Marcia. Okay, this one is a comment. I believe public librarians can assist in addressing this matter, start training learners on information retrieval skills. Exactly, this is so true. And also school librarians as well, so that when we have these first years or undergraduate students, we won't have a problem of students that are not familiar at all with information searching or using information ethically as well. So it has to start from basic levels of education as well. And also public library. So all of us in all the landscapes of libraries, public libraries, school libraries, and university library, we all have a role to play to instill information literacy amongst our users. Right.
Tina, there
yes.
are a few questions from Mayor Molopiani and Mayor Betty Easter on the chat.
Sorry, it seems I missed them. Let me just scroll up. Okay, there's a question from Memo Lopiani. Don't they have an information literacy program at Univen? Do you know, Marcia, if they have any information literacy program at the University of Venda?
Yes, they do have information literacy programs. Hence, I was saying, even if the students, remember they indicated that they became aware on an average level via the library training. And there was also a study, I think, done within Univen for the information literacy. So I just think it's still important to continuously, as a recommendation done there still need to be a continuous intensifying library training and user education programs, not to say that we've trained only the first years and then it's enough. So they need to be continuous training based on that, so that the users get to that option where they advancedly use the advanced search options and not only the simple search option.
Thank you so much. There's also another question here. Is there information literacy program at public university compulsory? We struggle to get students to do the information literacy program. Okay, in private institutions. Marcia,
Oh, okay, the question says,
is there information literacy program at public universities compulsory?
yes, from Univen, there was an article written by Ms. Tlakula at Univen to show that the students, their library orientation is, I can't remember if it's Ms. Tlakula or Nema Lili. So they indicated that after a study that was conducted, the information literacy programs are now compulsory. However, with students, you know, it can be there will still be those ones that remain behind. So it's still a challenge for academic libraries to also have a solution towards for those that are always behind, because they will always have these gaps each and every time when studies are done.
Yes, and also just to add on to that, to the person who asked the question, based on the deliberation or the presentation from the ISIL conference last week, it seems as if information literacy is not really or necessarily compulsory in most public universities. Hence, we're having a challenge of accessing students to instill or to train them on information literacy aspects. Right. Colleagues, you can further engage with Marcia on the chats option. We're going to move and hand over to the next speaker on our program, which is Ms. Tebogo Makurupetsi, and she'll be giving us a presentation on her from her honors study titled The Establishment of School Libraries, a Case Study of a Secondary School in Limpopo Province. Ms. Tebogo Makurupetsi is an honors graduate with from the information studies that she completed with the University of Limpopo. She is currently working as an intern library at the UFS Neville Alexandra Library South Campus, and she's also new in the LIS profession. She has a passion of writing as she contributes to Liasa in Touch magazine. She also collaborates with her colleagues in writing academic publications. Over to you, Ms. Makurupetsi.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Loud and clear.
Okay, thank you.
May you kindly share your presentation?
Yes. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Thank you so much. As I was introduced, my name is Makurupetsi Tebogo, and this is my first time presenting as well. So I'll be presenting on the topic of establishment of school libraries, a case study of a secondary school in Limpopo Province. I haven't indicated the name of the high school because of Poppy Acts. So this was a collaborative paper with my colleagues from University of Limpopo, and we were supervised by Mr. A.L. Mulauti. And I've asked permissions from all of the co-authors to present this paper, and they've agreed. My presentation outline consists of the introduction, purpose and objectives, the research methodology, summary of the findings, the conclusion, and lastly, the recommendations. On the introduction, on background and motivation, School Library is a house of collections from e-resources to print resources. The main purpose of a school library is that to ensure that learners and teachers can access information and ideas. So the study also seeks to fast track the establishment of the school library to enhance teaching and learning at the school that is situated at Mujaji School of Community. So the school library is a place that exists to provide a range of learning opportunities of both large and small groups, as well as individuals, with a focus on intellectual contact, information literacy, and so forth. With the regards to the problem statement, we noted that there is a lack of the school library, and as well as lack of qualified school librarians and lack of infrastructure to support the teaching and learning. So teaching and learning in the school can be improved by having a school library. So the lack of a library within the school premises can cause learners not to perform well in their tests, exams, and assignments. So this will affect the performance of the school as a whole and the pass rate in the province. On the next slide, with regards to the purpose of the study, the aim of the study was to investigate the establishment of the school library and the high school for enhanced in learning and teaching. The outcomes or the objectives of the study was to identify the importance of the library on the learner's performance. Secondly, to explore the relationship between the library, teachers' preparation, and information dissemination among learners. Thirdly, to evaluate the challenges in establishing a school library at the school. Also to determine the information resources needed in that school. And lastly, to recognize the challenges that the library might experience. With the significance of the study, the high school students and teachers were asked to examine the importance and benefits of a school library with a focus on instructional programs, reading, and related activities. The study also examines collections, budgets, facilities, information technology, personnel, and the school librarian's administrative job. On the scope of the study and limitations, as already mentioned above, this research is primarily focused on the establishment of the school library. This study had 4 participants who were teachers in that school, and the study is primarily focused on the establishment of the school libraries. This includes investigating the challenges and information resources needed and the importance of the library on the learner's performance. The results were only drawn from, we're only focusing on only one school, excluding the other schools in the Limpopo province. On the next slide, with regards to research methodology, on the research approach, we've used the qualitative research method so that we can be able to subjectively perceive and give meaning to the establishment of the school library. On the research design, we've used the case study method that helped us to get an in-depth information about the group of teachers at the school. On population sampling, we used the convenient sampling that was adopted in a manner that all teachers will be part of the study. On data collection, we've gathered data from our participants through face-to-face interviews. On data analysis, we've used the thematic analysis method. With regards to ethical considerations on permissions to conduct the study, we wrote a letter to the principal of the school to request permission to carry out the study, as well as a letter from the University of Limpopo Information Studies program giving us permission to conduct the study. On informed consent, we informed the teachers and we created a consent form that was distributed to everyone who participated in the study. And we've also informed the participants that they have the option to engage in the study on a voluntary basis and that they can withdraw at any moment. On regards on the anonymity and confidentiality, we've requested the participant that they remain anonymous when taking part in the study. On integrity and plagiarism, we have acknowledged all the sources used to conduct the study in order to avoid plagiarism. And this was done by means of citations, referencing, and we've also submitted our research paper to Turnitin to detect any form of plagiarism, as the University of Limpopo accept only 15% plagiarism. On the next slide, with regards to personal information of the participants, the study found that none of the participants were below the age of 25 years. The age range from 26 to 55 years. According to the Teaching and Learning International Survey, the study found out that the average age of South African teachers was 43 years. The survey also found that 32% of teachers were age 50 and above. With regards to gender, according to the results acquired from the study, 4 participants participated in the study. The numbers were equal. We had 2 males and 2 females. This finding support the Gender Equity in South African Education 1994 to 2004 conference proceedings, which saw both men and women as equals. These findings support gender equality. With regards to education level, the study found out that most of the participants obtained a bachelor's degree in education and had a teaching diploma. This finding support the call by the Basic of Education in 2009 that teachers should obtain a bachelor's degree, a 3-year or 4-year bachelor's degree. On working experience, the study found that the working experience was ranging from 2 to 31 years. The study showed that most of the participants had more than 1 year working experience. This finding support the ongoing professional development of teachers, which a priority in many countries around the world. It is viewed as the most effective approach to improve the teachers' instructional practices after they enter the workplace. On subject, according to the results, most of the teachers were teaching English, SPEDI, and history. The study shows that the school have teachers that teaches languages and history. It is recommended for learners to pass languages at school, and therefore by having languages subjects at school, it supports the recommendation by the Department of Basic Education that learners should pass languages subject with high marks. The establishment of a school library will help learners to perform better in this subject. On the next slides, on data analysis and the discussions of the findings. With regards to theme 1 on additional information, the study disclosed that the library can give teachers more information and clarity on the lessons they're going to teach and be able to perfectly prepare themselves for lessons. And one of the participants, and I quote, "Yes, some clarity is needed." So this means that the findings support the rule by the Department of Basic Education 2016 that teachers should attend workshops to get additional information in their field and prepare of their teaching and learning processes to acquire new knowledge. The findings sought to reveal that school library serves as a place of in-service training that enables teachers and acquire new understandings and instructional skills. On lack of funds, we sought to disclose the obstacles in establishing a library. The findings revealed that the schools lack the necessary budget to establish the the library, and the participant too indeed agreed that they lack resources such as budget. The study found out that the school is a public school, therefore public schools gets fund from the government, and through that fund the school cannot afford to build a library on their own. The school must get financial support from the government to build the school library. The findings support a statement by Mojapelo 2016. The equitable resource allocation and provision is critical in all schools, including those in disadvantaged rural communities. So the findings sought to reveal that the schools should have equitable resources allocated for school libraries. With theme 3 on the lack of infrastructure, the study seeks to understand if the school has the relevant infrastructure to support the establishment of the library. I quote from participant 3 that no, all the classes are occupied, therefore we do not have classes, not even mobile classes, to make a library. The findings opposing the call by the Department of Basic Education to 2016 to build an infrastructure to accommodate library, or the schools should look out for donations to build the library. The findings support Mojapelo 2016 that adequate infrastructure is a key priority in a school setup. With regards to theme 4 on the good relationship, the study pursues to understand the improvement of the relationship between the teachers and the learners that the establishment of a library will bring. The findings reveal that the participants agree that establishing a school library will improve the relationship between the teachers and the learners. As I quote, yes, teachers as readers will encourage learners to read. This findings support a study by Mabunda 2020 that the relationship between the teachers and learners play a significant function in the academic performance of learners. The study reveals that learners who have a good relationship with their teachers excel in the school activities. Furthermore, with regards to theme 5 on that school library is an integral to the teaching and learning processes. The study wanted to reveal the assistance that brings by the school library to the process of teaching and learning. The findings reveal that participants issued that the presence of a school library will enhance the process of teaching and learning. The study supports the principle of the Department Basic of Education that the school should have more study materials to support learners' academic needs. One of the participants, I quote, responded with, yes, the process of the teaching and learning will be more improved if the library is available. The findings support Sanskrit 2017 that a school library facilitates diverse life skills, thereby enhancing personal development in young children, and school libraries contribute to the intellectual life of learners. On theme 6 on the benefit of learners, the study wanted to had sought to make known of what to expand as the school consider establishing a library. The findings indicated that the participants do recommend a library at their school. And one of the participants responded with to a great extent, as this will benefit all learners and teachers. These findings, they support Sanskrit 2018 that a study recently conducted showcases an apparel contribution of school libraries to the intellectual life of learners, and it facilitates the diverse skills by enhancing personal development in young children. On theme 7 on the improved performance, the study has revealed the thoughts of the teachers on establishing the library at the school. The findings also support the Department of Education that schools must have enough materials and qualified teachers for learners to have good results in the school. One of the participants indicated that the performance will indeed increase. This finding support the National Library of New Zealand 2019 that a school library has a positive impact on learners' achievements, and research shows that higher learner performance such such as improved reading and high academic achievements. The findings reveal that school libraries improves learners' performance in their tests, assignments, and overall academics. On the average, the study disclosed the performance of learners without the library at the school, and the findings reveal that the participants have average, if not satisfactory performance. One of the participant stated that not satisfactory. This findings support Karande 2005 that education is one of the most important aspects of human resource development, and poor school performance not only results in the child having low self-esteem, but also causes significant stress to the parents. This finding sought to reveal that a school library serves as a knowledge hub for learners in order to improve their academic performance. With the last on more information, the study shows the need for a school library to improve the overall performance of the learners, and it justified the answers. So the findings sought to support the fact that learners with more information always get good results, and however, the presence of the school library will help the teachers and learners to get enough information to enhance the teaching and the learning processes. One of the participants responded with the yes, learners will get more information that will assist in their studies. The findings support American Library Association 2020 that a school library is a place where all students feel welcome and encouraged to grow and learn. On the next slide, with regards to the summary of the findings, the following findings address the objectives that I've stated in the first slide. With regards to the importance of the library on learners' performance, a study found that the learners' performance at that high school is badly affected by the absence of a school library. A library helps students navigate the internet, offers a quiet area for studying, and encourages students to read. Some participants are saying that they do not have a library to do their research assignments or fulfill any of their school tasks. With regards to the summary of findings on the objective 2, which is the relationship between the library, teachers' preparations, and information dissemination among learners, the study revealed that the establishment of a library at that high school can improve the relationship between the teachers and the learners. This is because it will enable the teachers to always refer their learners to the library whenever they are given school tasks. With other objective on the information resources needed in South African schools, the resources of a school library include its physical facilities, equipment, collection of media and information materials, funds, budget, and of course, staff. The findings of the study shows that the high school will not be able to afford to buy the resources needed in the library for the entire year. On the challenges, on the objective of the challenges that the library might experience at the high school, the role of a school library is outdated and needs to change if the library is to play a vital role in promoting literacy and learning, facilitating and enabling equality education for all school learners. There will be no classrooms that can serve as a library space, as there are only 2 blocks or 4 classrooms, and all the classrooms are used to accommodate learners from grade 8 to grade 12. And also the other challenge is that the librarian at the school, there are no qualified librarians. They'll only place a teacher who can play both roles of a librarian and a teacher as well. With regards to the recommendations, we recommended that they develop and implement the school library policies in the country. This makes funding, regulations, government information, product and equipment, procurement, bibliographic resources, and other requirements available. Politicians need national and institutional support to help achieve general educational goals. They should recruit qualified library professionals. So school leaders need to be aware that a school library is a burden without competent and ambitious librarians. Librarians today have the additional responsibility of ensuring that their clients have information literacy. The Library Association should support efforts or work hard to create a situation where schools have a policy of allowing them to hire qualified professionals. They should place government and schools needs to find ways to improve library infrastructure. The use of dysfunctional buildings or the lack of space or spaces for libraries means that the schools are struggling at multiple levels. Modifying or extending existing functional structures enhances their value impression. The government needs to lead the construction and equipment of the school library. Lastly, on the recommendation to encourage usage of various educational resources, encouraging learners to use various or multiple textbooks in their and preparation of their tests and assignments. On the last slides, on the conclusion, the establishment of a school library allows each people the right to entry to the essential resource and gain knowledge. Places as rural areas still have not developed and improved access to the internet and network infrastructure. This enables learners and teachers to have trust in physical libraries. A school library plays a vital role in the performance of the learners, which in turn leads to a good average of the school's performance. These are my reference list. Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Makurupeti. You survived your first ever presentation. And just like Marcia, you did very well. Thank you so much. Any questions for Tebogo in line with her presentation on the perceived benefits of teachers, the perceived views of teachers with regards to the establishment of a school library? Are there any questions, recommendations, comments that you'd like to share with Tebogo, or questions that you'd? Okay. Oh, I see a question there from Memo Lopian. She's asking if you only interviewed 4 teachers for your study. Why only 4 teachers?
We've as we wanted the consent, as we wanted to get permission in conducting the study, we've gave them the consent forms, and only 4 of them indicated that they are interested in us asking them. Thank you.
Okay, there's a question from Mr. Sihle Blosage. He's asking if open educational resources can assist in closing the gap caused by a lack of school libraries in the province. Do you think open educational resources can be a solution to this?
Yes, I think it can somehow do assist.
Okay. Any other question for Mrs. Makurupeti? All right. Tebogo, just a question. Are there any, since there's a shortage of a school library, are there any public libraries close to the school that the learners can use, and the teachers as well, to support them in their academic endeavors?
I can't really say it's close. It's a bit far, the public library that is available, and if a learner or a teacher needs to use one, they have to use a taxi. So it is a challenge or a barrier for some of the learners to access some of these resources.
Okay, so the public library is not necessarily accessible.
No.
To the learners.
No.
Okay. Any question for Tebogo from the audience? And Teboho, who do you think whose responsibility is it to establish these libraries within these schools?
This I can't really say it's of a specific organization. This is it should be a collaborative effort between the Department of Education, the government, library associations, and the library professionals to also advocate to secure the fundings that can also assist in this establishing of the libraries, and also to work with the communities, also the library professionals to also be able to ask for book donations and so forth. It's more of a collaborative effort.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Right, I see on the chats, I don't see any questions. It's just comments. Well done, Tebo, good presentation. Thank you, Tebo, for the presentation. Well done, Tebo, that was a good presentation. Thank you so much, colleagues. You can further engage with Tebo or ask your questions on the chat option. We're now going to move to the next and last speaker on our program, which is Ms. Shireen Matope da Silva, who is going to give us a presentation from her master's dissertation titled An Investigation into the Use of Electronic Resources by Postgraduate Students in the Department of Postgraduate Studies in Education at the Central University of Technology. And just to give a background of our speaker, Ms. Shireen holds a Bachelor of Information Science degree, a postgraduate diploma in governance, and a master's in library and information sciences from the University of Western Cape. After she completed her degree, she worked at the School of Government in the University of Western Cape for a year. Internship to work at the Mitchell's Plain Home Affairs registering birth certificates. She also worked at Total SA for 7 years as a business advisor, and she then left Total SA and she went back to librarianship. She has worked at University of Western Cape as a library assistant at the cataloging section for 5 years. Then she applied for a job at the Central University of Technology as a librarian in the cataloging section. That is where she is currently working. Over to you, Ms. Shireen. I can just see the slides moving, but we cannot hear you.
So I'm muted. I can speak. Oh.
We can hear you. You are not muted.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to come and present my thesis. Oh, okay. All right. And my title is, my thesis is an investigation into the use of electronic resources by postgraduate students in the Department of Postgraduate Studies in Education at the Central University of Technology. And my title before I came here, it was supposed to be for the students at UWC. But when I was still busy with my thesis, then I had to relocate, gotten a job to Central University of Technology. Then my supervisor decided I must just change my topic to do it where I am, to eliminate the logistic problems. So that is why my thesis is looking at the Central University of Technology. So these are the contents, what I'll be discussing, the background, the problem statement, the objectives of the study, the research questions, the theoretical framework, the literature review, the research methodology, the findings, then the conclusions, then the recommendations. Then the background. The beginning of 1980s to current libraries are depending on online systems, and electronic databases and vendor links are completely influencing collection development policies. So the electronic resources have shown a significant increase in the 21st century, and it changed the way information is searched by students and their way of thinking and researchers worldwide. So presently, e-resources are identified as the most important resources for the dissemination of information in institutions of higher education, and particularly postgraduate and academics, according to Edelman 2016. So it is essential for library services and resources to have adequate access for the attainment of good quality academic skills in higher education, no matter where students, faculties, and programs are situated, according to Gibbs. So consequently, institutions of higher learning around the world have embraced information and communication technologies in order to form process of teaching and learning, according to Mbata Naidu. The problem statement. Over the past 5 years, the CUT library has invested large amounts to buy e-resources and computer systems that would support and give access to those e-resources. So most CUT library databases are multidisciplinary, and academic libraries subscribe to and buy various types of e-resources that can be accessed anywhere and anytime. Because the CUT library devotes a large percentage of its budget to buy suitable e-resources for its students, so it is important to investigate the usage patterns of current e-resources to determine how e-resources are accessible and used. So it is important to find out if there are e-resources that are utilized or not at all, and it will be significant to know so that recommendations in improving the use of e-resources or to cancel the subscriptions of those not used can be made. The objectives of the study. The objectives of the study were to determine to what extent the PGCE, meaning the postgraduate and certificate education students, were aware of different types of e-resources in CUT library, to identify e-resources that are used by PGCE students at CUT, and to establish how often the PGCE students use e-resources, and to identify the ICT skills the PGCE students need to use e-resources successfully, and to determine what purposes PGCE students use e-resources, and to identify the challenges of postgraduate students concerning e-resources. So my objectives and my research questions, they are linked together so that my research can answer the objectives of the study. So my research questions were the research to investigate whether the PGE students, to what extent they are aware of the different types of e-resources and e-resources that they use, and how frequently do the PGCE education students use the library e-resources, and the ICT competencies, and the PGE education student, the CUT, and then the challenges that they encounter while they are using the e-resources. The theoretical framework that I've used is acceptance model, the TEM, and the reason for this model was that previous research, they've used this model, and it looks, it was more relevant to my research because it talks more about why students would use certain systems and why students will not use it, and what will change the student's attitude for not using it, and their behavior, and then last it will come to the actual use of why would they want to use that the e-resources. And then the literature review that I looked at was mostly literature that was from the developing countries such as Nigeria, Botswana, Lesotho, Uganda, Namibia, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and then the South African part, where I looked at the research and the articles that were written regarding the electronic resources so that I can see whether are we moving on or the researches are still the same. And then the research methodology. On the research methodology, there was some challenges because I did it while it was COVID. And when I finished with my chapter 3, that's when COVID came in, and then it was we were on lockdown. And so that was when my chapter 4 had to be done, but I couldn't do it because of that. But when the president announced that we were on level 2, that's when I had to come here to CUT to go to the Department of PGCE to see if how can they help me to get students, because during that time, the students, they were doing their practicals at different schools. So it was a challenge to find and to do the data, but at the department, they made me to meet with the students coordinator, where she helped me so that I can meet with the lecturer who lectures the PGCE students, so that she can talk to them so that they can help me in terms of filling the questionnaires for me. So I had to create the WhatsApp, to put my questionnaire on the WhatsApp, because she had a WhatsApp group for the PGCE students. So that is how I managed to collect my data. So some of the questionnaires, I sent them through the WhatsApp. Some of the students gave me their email. So, and my study was on a quantitative research approach. And then my population target was 118. And on the PGCE students, and the total, and I received 76.3 of the response rate. And the sampling I used was total population sampling. And then to analyze the data, it was the statistical package, the SPSS. And my findings, the first questions I asked the students on my questionnaires was postgraduate education students are aware of different types of e-resources that are found in the library. And the study showed that most of the postgraduate students knew about e-resources because of the training from the university library. And this concurred with the study that was done by Ali in 2005 that shows that 95% of users are aware of e-resources that comes from the library. And on my findings, I had to, when I did my findings, I had to compare it with my theory to see that it answers my theory, it compares with my theory. So, and the current study showed that a minority learned about e-resources through lecturers, friends, peers, and self-study. And then the findings continued. I asked them again, which e-resources do postgraduate education students at CUT, and how often do they use them? So the results indicated that the usage of e-resources by postgraduate students is poor, despite them being aware of those e-resources, but they still didn't use them. So these results were similar to the research that was done by Boshoran and Hein, which they found that even though e-resources are accessible in academic libraries, the patrons' usage is very low. And most postgraduate students in the current study chose never when asked about the usage of e-resources, of different e-resources. So on this one, however, for me to be able to get a clear picture of who's using most, who's not using most, I had to do a cohort table. On a cohort table, I had to separate the honor students, the master students, and the PGCE. I didn't have the PhD students So the PhD students didn't take part in this research. So this is the table of the cohort table that I did. This one is for the postgraduate diploma students usage of databases, where it shows the way of them who took part on the questionnaires. And this is the statistics of showing how many of the postgraduate diploma are using EBSCOhost, SA Publication, Emerald, OECD, ProQuest, Science Direct, and Taylor Francis. As you can see on daily, it's only one, and then never there are a lot on less than. So this is how it is. And this one's for masters. For masters, there were only 3 master students who took part on the study. As you can see, their usage regarding the e-resources. And most of the postgraduate students agreed strongly that they had searching abilities. This was when they were asked about the ICT, whether in terms of their searching abilities. So they said they know how to search, but I realized that they know how to search only when it comes to Google and whatever. But when it comes to the OPEC, the library online OPEC, that is where the challenge is. They don't know how to search the databases. So and most of them had inadequate skills in the use of computer to search for e-resources on the CUT OPEC. So this could mean that the library OPEC is not known as an access point to e-resources among the postgraduate who participated in the study. So possibly because the library does not promote these tools enough. So the problems that postgraduate education students at CUT encounter when using e-resources, the study found that postgraduate students in education had challenges, limitations, they said, concerning infrastructure problems in terms of the computers were not enough. On campus at home, they don't have, others don't have laptops, so they only use the computers here in the library or in campus, as well as personal limitations. There were data problems when they are off campus, and maybe they didn't even know how to access the database of campus. And one of the challenges I identified concerning was that the slow internet connection. And regarding the personal limitations, as I've said, it says a lack of awareness of e-resources. And sometimes the passwords requirements were not clear, because sometimes they said they didn't know whether they have to put an email address or they have to put their name. So they were not clear. So because of that, they didn't have any interest in using the e-resources. And then the other question they were asked of the benefits, do they see the benefits in using e-resources? And the results show that many of the postgraduate students felt that e-resources give them up-to-date, fast access information. But here there was a contradiction, because in my result, it shows that most of them, they don't use e-resources, but when it comes to benefits, then most of them said that it gives them information. So there was like a little bit contradiction there. And e-resources are, and they said it's regarded as very beneficial to their studies. However, the results show that the use of it is poor, but they said it's beneficial to their studies. And they said this because the postgraduate student lacked the knowledge and how to retrieve e-resources via the OPEC. And then their attitudes towards the usage of e-resources. Attitudes towards the use of e-resources might be affected by the challenges that students face. Like I showed you on the theoretical framework, because the theoretical framework states that students, for them not to use a system or something, if they get challenges on using it, then their attitudes change towards the usage. So for instance, if students frequently struggle with passwords, requirements, and they perceive the use of databases as difficult, they might give up on the system and their attitude towards resources may be negative. So furthermore, the lack of skills and knowledge to search for the e-resources and deciding which database to choose might affect their attitude towards e-resources. So in conclusion, finally, it may be concluded that e-resources play a significant part in the retrieval of information. What was clear from this study is that the usage of e-resources by postgraduate students at CUT is very low, and it demonstrated a negative impact on teaching and learning and research work. So this study concurs with other studies studied in the literature review that awareness of e-resources does not mean that e-resources are used as results as indicated. So the recommendations that were made is that the library needs to make an effort to train students and create user education programs that will give information to all students on how to retrieve e-resources off campus. And CUT Library has a Facebook page which postgraduate students can log in and follow the library training sessions regarding databases and ebooks. And recommendations for further is to investigate how online orientation for LIS services would benefit postgraduate students. Thank you very much. And the third references I used. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Shireen, for that interesting presentation. And as you were presenting, I saw a connection between your study and Marcia's study on the OPEC, where she did a study on undergraduate students and their usage of OPEC. And your postgraduate students also indicated a lack of usage or awareness of the OPEC as well, which, you know, give us, you know, it's something that we need to work hard on as librarians or as libraries. Colleagues, you've heard from Mrs. Shireen. Are there any questions I see on the chats there? There's a question from Teresa Mofana, who's asking if your participants, are they still a Google generation? Why are they not using library e-resources?
Well, yes, to that, yes, correct. The Google generation, because they said they found CTX and Google easy to go, because when you type, let me say management on Google, then they're able to get articles. That's the reason. And some of them didn't even visit the library at all.
Okay, thank you. I see there's also a hand from Mayor Betty Easter. You can go ahead, Mayor Betty.
Thanks, Dina. Thank you so much. And congratulations to the organizers of this information sharing session on the research output. You know, when we say we learn every day, it's a phrase that we use very loosely and fail to probably attach any meaning to it. But I would like to say communication is very key in ensuring that we learn every day. Here is my colleague sharing information, much needed information. When she obtained her master's degree, I congratulated her. We informed the staff, we informed the members of the community. But guess what? We never bothered to ask what her study was about. And I learned today, only today, that is actually on our services. So colleagues, we need to communicate meaningfully. We should have asked, I as a manager should have asked Shireen, what was your study about? Shireen should have also said, Betsy, this is what actually my study was about. So we are not communicating effectively in order to make sure that we learn from one another. But back to that expression, we learn every day. So I'm happy, Shireen, that you are part of today's presentation so that we at CUT can, I don't know whether other colleagues from CUT are aware of this topic, but it's never too late to learn. So we're going to make sure that we make use of the findings, we spread our wings, we make use of the presentation to go and talk to the faculty so they can see and learn from the poor usage of the PGCE students so that we can hopefully improve the usage of our electronic resources. And so my recommendation then would be, I don't know, Dina, if maybe you are planning to continue with this, is for all of us to continue with this way of sharing information, but starting from home, make sure that whatever it is that you have done, colleagues, share with your colleagues internally so that you don't wait for an event like this that might probably come once a year and only learn about it. Learn from us. We made a mistake. We did not find out from Sharon what his master's degree was about. So learning from one another internally, making use of those information sessions to learn from one another, and also continue with this platform to share this type of researches that we have conducted. Thank you so much. I cannot use enough words to explain how grateful I am that the Free State branch has organized this, and we are learning as a result. I've learned from all the presenters. Thank you so much. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks a lot, Mebetsi. And what you've highlighted is it's very important with regards to the non-usage of these resources, because our libraries are spending so much, are investing so much on an annual basis to subscribe to these platforms, only to find that our users are not using them at all due to a lack of awareness or even skills as well. And I'm sure with regards to further workshops or webinars of this nature, I'm sure our chairperson, Ms. Gefo, and the organizers of this event, I think we have homework now to make sure that we carry on with this. This shouldn't be the first and the last one, based on the engagement and the information that we shared amongst each other as a community of practice. On that note, I see there's quite a number of questions in the chats. All right, Mayor Jeanette. Okay, firstly, is there a same is this same trend also applicable to other students or only postgraduate students? Shireen?
I am not sure because my study was only looking at the PGCE students. So it might be possible that, yes, because our information literacy only looked at first year.
Yes.
So there might be a possibility that maybe even in other departments.
Yes, and based on what Marcia shared, her study focused on the undergraduate students, and we've seen similar trends. So one can say there is a possibility that it's applicable to both undergraduates and postgraduates as well. And there's also a question from Jeanette Molopiani. She says, in the past, the advanced information literacy was part of the PGCE as a compulsory unit in the program at CUT. What happened to that program? Mesharim? Oh, your
okay.
That
The answer doesn't seem me when I did this study. I was still new at CUT. So I'm not sure, maybe the program I'm not sure, maybe the faculty librarians will know better.
Maybe it's Mezuki. I saw Mezuki Maya as well.
I was trying to look for Amos because he's a faculty. Okay. There he is. Amos, we do know maybe what happened to it.
Okay, Jeanette Molopiani. Go ahead, Jeanette.
Thank you very much. when I was an information literacy librarian at CUT. This was compulsory, and I was working with the head of the department, the late Dr. Diteko, if people know Dr. Diteko. So it was compulsory, it was credit bearing, it worth 50 marks. So if one of the students failed, they had to repeat the following year, whether they passed all the modules, but if they failed this, they had to come back the following year. And he was so rigid. So really, we produced quite a lot of, amazing teachers. So I don't know what happened after since I left. There were a lot of very interesting information literacy programs at CUT. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe on that note, it's time to resuscitate those programs, and also to motivate the embeddedness of such programs in other academic or university institutions as well, even public libraries and school libraries as well. Let me also check on the chat.
Whilst you are checking, Dina, indeed,
Yes,
Jeanette, that's worthwhile information. But we are working on ensuring that our content first is updated. We've done that. And we're working on the modus operandi. We're looking at having an information literacy committee with all the representations from all the faculties and relevant departments. And so the research office will be part of that committee, and they are keen in ensuring that postgraduate students are attended to as well. So we are on our way. Hopefully by next year, 2023, we'll be implementing some content to everybody. Thanks for that background information. We need it.
Thanks a lot, Mepeti. There's a question. Pano Maikera, who's asking, Shireen, can you rule away that your users are not limited to the use of e-resources due to the licensing adopted? One user at a time, maybe visits 3 users. What licenses do you have mostly for your e-resources?
On that, mostly they're trying to get unlimited resources, but it depends with the licensing of that, because some of the license, they don't have unlimited, it's 1 user, 2 users. So probably because of that, yes, it might be the challenge for that. So maybe that the licensing tool needs to be looked at for the sake of our users. I hope I've answered your question.
Okay. And I'm just wondering, was there a question maybe in your survey that asked them which platforms do they normally use besides the ones that you listed, the database that you listed? Was there a platform or a question rather to ask them which other platforms do they use besides the ones that the databases, the library databases?
Yes, I did ask them whether they use Google, they use CiteX, they use, so mostly they were saying Google because it's very easy. The other one even said if she goes to the internet cafe, it's easy, she just goes to Google and get the information.
My goodness. All right. That also aligns with the findings of Marcia as well, as the undergraduates indicated that they prefer Google as opposed to the OPEC in terms of finding information sources. Colleagues, we've had a mouthful of information from the speakers that gave us presentations aligning with various types of libraries. We firstly had Dr. Margaret, who gave us a presentation on Knowledge Commons. In public libraries, this was followed by Ms. Marcia, who deliberated on the usage of OPEC amongst undergraduate students at University of Venda. Then Ms. Makurupeti gave us a presentation on the establishment of a school library in Limpopo province. And lastly, we had a presentation from Mrs. Shireen Matope on the usage of electronic resources. And based on all of those presentation, colleagues, I must say we have quite a lot of work to do in terms of collaborating, in terms of benchmarking with best practices to enhance the establishment of school libraries, to enhance the embeddedness of information literacy within our libraries. I'm not sure if there are any comments or recommendations, questions from the floor before we officially hand over to Mr. Sihle Blosser to give a vote of thanks. Are there any last comments, recommendations, or questions from the floor? Okay, I see there's a hand there. Mr. Julius Mkhize, the floor is yours. Julius Mkhize? I think you unmuted. Yes, yes, there you go.
Sorry about that. Thank you for the opportunity and greetings to all the colleagues. Mine is just a generic comment. One would like to thank all the presenters for sharing such knowledge. But I think mine is
I'm on my way.
Sorry?
I'm on my way.
Hello.
Ms. Sharon, can you please mute? Yes, you may go ahead.
Yes, mine is more of a plea amongst us as a community of practice, especially here in the Free State Province. I come from a public library services in the Free State Province, working in a public library, and I find it very interesting that I'm not sure if there is many as some of us from the public sector attending such brilliant sessions for sharing information and knowledge. I plead with the leadership of the Free State branch to try and penetrate the public sector library services in increasing membership, because I feel some of my colleagues, perhaps they are missing a lot of incredible information on such a platform. That's my plea. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm sure, I'm not sure if colleagues have any deliberations based on the plea of Mr. Julius, but I've also noted that we've ran out of time as well. Okay. Thank you very much for that note. And there's also a comment, last comment from Bernice there. Colleagues, I think we have come to the end of our session in line with the research showcase by scholars within the Free State branch. We are now going to hand over to Mr. Sihle Blosser to give a vote of thanks. Sihle?
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you to all the presenters. I think before I give a proper vote of thanks, I'd like to say it is important that we take serious steps towards embracing the scholarship of library and information science. A lot of the time we find ourselves focused in delivering the service, and in the process we neglect the scholarship, which plays a significant part in the area of knowledge production. So the literature that, for example, that we saw today, it will be critical for the future, for people that would be interested in studying this thing, to look at, okay, during COVID, these were studies that were made and this is what they found. Many years later, 20, 50 years down the line, they'll be able to look back and look at everything that was done during the period. So therefore, I'm just putting a challenge to all of us as information professionals to take more serious steps, toward embracing the scholarship of information science, as well as being more serious and I would say straight to the point of meaningful about the research that we want to do. So with those words, I would like to say thank you to the 4 speakers. I know we've been talking to them for over the last month, trying to put this whole thing together. And thank you so much to the first time speakers. I know that they were hesitant and we got to a point where like, you have to do this, you have to do it for your first time. They've gone through the first time, we're expecting them to continue to do more of this presentation. Thank you to the program director. I know that you had flu, you had other engagement. Thank you so much for taking your time to be with us today and actually direct the flow of this engagement. And I also want to say thank you to Mahlakha Molepo for a very thought-provoking purpose of the day, just to give us direction why we starting this and where we are hoping to be in the next few years. And as those that might be aware, this started under ICC League, but because of the challenges that we had nationally with ICC League, it ended up with HELIC. So, and then after a few deliberations, we thought maybe this should be an annual event, looking at people that are studying at the Free State and how do we make sure that we hear what is it that they were researching. So this was the first one. Next year, we continue. I know Miss Pacey, she is doing her PhD, so I'm putting a challenge to her. And next year, I hope she will be here telling us about her research that she was doing this year. Over to you, Program Director, to conclude the program for the day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It seems like we have homework for the next seminar or the next webinar on the research showcase. Thank you so much, colleagues, and thanks for honoring the invitation and for availing yourself to this webinar. By the power vested in me as the program director, I officially apologies. I officially declare this session closed. Thank you so much, colleagues. Goodbye.